All right, good morning, everyone. Hopefully everyone's energized, ready to rock and roll. We had a great opening keynote, we had a great first session, and now we're going to have another great one. And it's going to be with my wonderful friend, Claire Muñoz from the Nevada Museum of Art up here in Reno, Nevada. And it's called the Art in Your Classroom, Create, Present, Respond, Connect. In the chat, I will post it again as friends come in. Just the session title and a couple of housekeeping things. You know, you love them. Please make sure you're signing in via the attendance survey, especially if you want that wonderful credit, either professional learning or the college credit, whatever is your fancy for that. And I believe that is all I have housekeeping wise. Later on, you'll see another link from me for the session survey. Just to help us out and just any other updates as they come along. All right, I'll pass it over to you.
All right. Hi, everybody. So I'm Claire Muñoz. I'm the Senior Director of Education at the Nevada Museum of Art. The Nevada Museum of Art is located in Reno. I've been with the museum for 14 years. This is my anniversary month. And always in education. So started out as our school services manager, helping with our school tours program. I ran our museum school for continuing education for the community, public programs. And then today I sit and help with a lot of our teacher professional development and oversee our department, which is a place I love to be. I would love participation. We're going to go through some of the fine art strands and hopefully have a pretty interactive session. So I do encourage you to participate at various points during today's presentation. I would love to see you. I would love to hear from you. I also recognize it's Saturday and teachers are tired. And if you just want your camera off and you want to be a passive listener, I also understand that. But I do hope you will participate. I'd love to hear from each of you and what you're hoping to get out of today's session. Tell me what grade you're teaching to give me a sense. This was designed for K-5, but it really could go to any grade level. We'll take a peek at the grade 5 standards, but it's really applicable to any teacher at any grade level and even in different subjects. So I'm going to start with David. Why don't you tell us where you're joining us from and what grade you're teaching?
Hi, I'm David Lowe. I'm from Carson City. I teach a 3rd through 5th grade CLS class at Fremont Elementary.
Great. Thanks, David. Thanks for joining us. Maria.
I teach 2nd grade at Fong Elementary.
And what district is that?
Oh, Clark, CCSD. Sorry.
Thank you.
Coffee hasn't set in yet.
And then we have M. Parker.
Good morning. I'm in Lyon County in Dayton, and I teach kindergarten.
What's your first name?
Megan, sorry.
That's okay. And you said 1st grade?
Kindergarten.
Kinder.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Fighting a cold. Sorry.
Thank you for being here. All right, Brandy.
Hi, I teach kindergarten for Lyon County in Yerington.
Great. Thank you so much, Brandy. I have T. Bolton.
Hi, I teach 5th grade for Lyon County in Dayton Elementary, or Dayton, Nevada.
And what's your first name?
Tammy, T-A-M-I.
Thanks so much, Tammy. Let's see, Pierce.
Yeah, my name is actually Richard Squelia. I teach 3rd grade at Sierra Nevada Academy. That's Sierra Nevada Academy Charter School in Washoe County. So, and my camera's on, but it's not working, so I apologize for that.
That's cool. That's okay. Thank you. Since your name on the screen says Pierce, I'm going to try to remember that it's Richard, but you.
Let me try to. I'll change it.
Okay, cool. And if I make a mistake, just please correct me.
Yeah.
And then Corinne. I see 5th grade, Carson City.
Yep. I am Corinne Meridian, 5th grade, Carson City at Fremont Elementary.
That's great. All right. And then I'm gonna have a hard time with this one. It looks like it could be Erin, but it's E-R-N-S-T-K-M.
I'm logged in as my school. I'm Kim Ernst is my last name, and I'm at David Cox Elementary in Clark County Kindergarten.
Great. Lots of kinder teachers here today. All right. And then Steph.
Sorry. I teach kindergarten at First CCSD and at Gold Farm Elementary.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us. Let's see, did I do, we have two Brandys? We do. We have Brandy with 2 E's.
Hi, I teach in Clark County at Donna D. Snyder in the Southwest, and I teach 4th grade.
All right, great, thank you. Nellie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nelly Gomez. I teach autism at Desert Pine High School.
Great. Where is Desert Pines?
It's East Nevada.
I love all of this. Okay. And let's see, we did Korean. You guys are starting to jump around on me here. April. Okay, we'll come back to April. Michael. We'll come back to you.
3rd grade, Clark County.
Thanks, Michael. Okay, and then we have Mary Salio.
Hi, I teach art K through 5.
Great, thanks, Mary. And what district?
Oh, Clark County.
Okay, thank you. And then Linda.
I teach 1st grade and CCSD.
Okay, great. I think we heard from everybody except April. Anybody I missed? Okay, excellent. Well, let me go ahead and share my screen.
Oh, fucking. Oops, sorry.
There we go. You guys seen 2 screens? Oh, no. Okay, everybody good? Can you see that screen? Anybody? Can you see that?
Looks great, Claire.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. I'm like, anybody? All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about art in your classroom while reviewing the Nevada Academic Content Standards for Fine Art. I just recently presented with my colleague in the district, in Washoe County School District, Aaron Grossman, and we were looking at a really cool platform called Doodles Academy. I forgot to put it as a resource for this particular presentation, but for our elementary school teachers in particular, Doodles Academy is a fantastic resource that provides lesson plans in the arts, but really some critical thinking tools. And Aaron and I had 27 teachers from Washoe County School District, and we shared with them the Nevada Academic Content Standards for Fine Arts, looking at the visual arts, and 100% of the teachers had never seen it before. So that inspired today's workshop. I hope you have seen these. If not, we're going to review them. And I'm going to focus on 2 of the strands. So the Nevada Academic Content Standards for Fine Arts encompasses the 5 arts disciplines: visual arts, music, theater, dance, and media arts. It's predicated on a belief that artistic literacy provides students with an ability to create, present, critique, and connect art to their academic studies, lives, and the world around them. And we'll focus on those content areas in a little bit. And then the 4 strands that you'll see in the standards is the idea of artistic literacy, which includes creating, presenting, responding, and connecting. There we go. So these are the 4 strands. For today's presentation, we're going to focus on responding and connecting using visual thinking strategies. And this is an area that I think a lot of teachers have a harder time with. The creating or doing art projects, some teachers are comfortable with, some teachers are challenged with, but I think it's the responding and connecting where we see some issues, where teachers really don't know how to do that. And so we're going to walk through some ways that we can make that happen in your classroom. So with respond, and I also should say that the Nevada Academic Content Standards really reflect the National Core Art Standards. They're almost identical with very, very small modifications, but not very meaningful modifications. So with respond, we're thinking about the ways in which, and I'm looking at grade 5 here, There's not a huge difference in each of the grade levels, so you're probably very comfortable in your own subject in your own grade. I just chose grade 5, and you can make adaptations and take a look at the standards for your particular grade level. But with Respond, students are asked to perceive and analyze work, interpret intent and meaning in artistic work, and apply criteria to evaluate artistic work. I think that when you're looking at the visual art standards, if you start with Respond and Connect, it will help inform the creation. So with Connect, apply and relate knowledge and personal experience to make art, and relate artistic ideas and works with societal, cultural, and historical context to deepen understanding. One of the things that I've seen become more apparent are the connections between social emotional learning and the arts, and the ways in which the strategy that I'm going to share with you in a minute will help empower your students' voices and really build some of the cultural empathy and cultural sensitivities in your classroom. So we're going to review a teaching methodology, which is called visual thinking strategies. This is something that we use in the museum world regularly. And for those of you who are not in Reno, which it's really exciting because the majority of you are not, I actually think we only have maybe one. I don't even think we have a Washoe County School District teacher. We have Carson. So many of you probably have never been to the Nevada Museum of Art. We are a visual art museum. We're about 90,000 square feet and the only accredited art museum in the state. Visual thinking strategies is something that a lot of art museums employ when they do their school tours program. It's something that if you participate in a school tours program at the museum, your students will experience and you'll see modeled, and will hopefully give you ways that you can talk to your students about artwork. And then we also do offer virtual field trips, and they are live and facilitated and hosted by our educators. You can book them any day of the week, and the timing is flexible. And again, they are live facilitated sessions that walk you through some of the visual thinking strategies while connecting it to our artwork at the museum. And then there's always a very easy hands-on art project that you can conduct with your students with limited materials that our facilitators will help walk you through. So we can talk a little bit more about that at the end of this program. So visual thinking strategies was developed by Philip Genuine and Abigail Housen, cognitive psychologists, and Philip is a museum educator. They came together and were really inspired by design thinking. I don't think that we're going to have enough time to get into design thinking. I do have it as a tile in my presentation should we have time. But really design thinking is defining the problem, identifying your client, building empathy for who you're designing for, prototyping, testing, evaluating, and it's a whole series of applications that can be applied to multiple subject areas. Again, this is kind of a diversion, but Philip and Abigail were thinking about design thinking and then also thinking about the visual arts and how those two could find alignment. So today we're going to dive into visual thinking strategies. Visual thinking strategies is, in theory, very simple. So it's 3 guiding questions when you're assessing a visual artwork. What's going on in this picture? What do you see that makes you see that? And what more can you find? And I will say, and we'll get into this a little bit later, that language matters and the positioning of questions matters. And the way that these questions are designed is to encourage dialogue with your students, to really build that responsiveness in the classroom, to encourage inquiry and investigation. So again, what is going on in this picture? What do you see that makes you say that? And what more can we find? And I encourage you to use this technique when you visit museums, when you look at visual artworks. And I think you'll also find other applications for it in other parts of your world. You got a new weight room there. And we are going to practice this together. So in just a minute or two, we're going to look at an artwork. But before that, I'm going to prepare you for this. So I will be the facilitator as you all look at this artwork, and I will pose these 3 questions. What's going on in this picture? What do you see that makes you say that? And what more can we find? So in asking these questions, we are initiating the active process of discovery and probing on the part of the students. As a facilitator, as a teacher in a classroom, or as an educator in a museum, It's our role to listen carefully and to acknowledge every answer by looking with the students, pointing to the details mentioned, and paraphrasing what students say. The paraphrasing part of visual thinking strategies is really important because it demonstrates that you're hearing what your students are communicating, and you're respecting their contributions to the conversation. As facilitators, you find ways that you can link converging and diverging opinions and help students synthesize a variety of viewpoints. And then you continue to encourage further inquiry. So that's that third question, what more can we find? This is where you often will, when you allow that extra time, the conversation will continue and the discoveries will also continue. Okay, and then we also allow ample opportunity for students to point out what they see. Sometimes this takes time. When we're looking at a visual artwork, we in person are usually allowing a full minute, a full 60 seconds to view. When we do this virtually, we usually will do about 30 seconds of viewing time. There is periods where you have to be quiet. And I think in education, sometimes that's hard, especially when you're standing in front of people and you're feeling like you're in a teacher position. To allow that pause and that moment for silence and reflection is something that we work with our team on, is just being comfortable in the silence and allowing that those moments of inquiry to develop. So this is one of the artworks that we have in the museum's collection. And again, I said words matter and the positioning of questions matter. So when we say what's going on in this picture versus what do you see, what's going on in this picture opens the discussion. It suggests that the image is about something and that there is something to discover, encourages storytelling and deeper thinking, and students are encouraged to make and explore meaning versus what do you see in this picture? When you ask a student, what do you see in this picture, you tend to get a list. When you ask what's going on in this picture, you tend to elicit storytelling and develop narrative. The second question is, what do you see that makes you say that? So you're asking your students to gather evidence to support their opinions. They're having to support their observations with visual data. This encourages logic and debate. Students can see different things in a single artwork. It doesn't mean that one is wrong or one is right. It means that they're bringing their own perspective to the artwork. And then you as a facilitator and as an educator are encouraging them to explore their observations and to contribute their personal narrative to the story. Again, what versus why. So what requests evidence? So we're requiring backup to support their opinions versus why, which is asking for motives. And then what more can you find? Sometimes you think the conversation might be done and you might be ready to move on. When we look at an artwork in the museum, we will oftentimes, even in an hour-long tour, we may only look at 4 pieces in the museum's collection. We usually try to allocate about 15 minutes for discussion. I've had artworks where we've spent 45 minutes looking at a single piece. And we want to give everybody the tools to be able to do that, both in your classroom and in public settings. So with this final question, what more can you find? The conversation becomes more complete. We continue that inquiry and look for missing items or missing stories and missing narratives. It encourages a more thorough examination. And one of the things we do in person is pointing. You'll see me moving my cursor around in the virtual setting. That's something you would experience on a virtual field trip. And again, for all of you who are outside of our vicinity, our local vicinity, I would love to see you booking virtual field trips with us. They're totally free and they're about an hour, I would say an hour and 15 minutes, including a project. And once again, those projects are done with very basic materials, so it's accessible in the classroom. So usually it's paper, scissors, and colorful drawing materials. And then each of our school tours program is grade banded. So the kindergarten, I know we have a lot of kindergarten teachers in this group. The kindergarten virtual field trip is a lot shorter. It's about 40 minutes in length, also including that hands-on program. Okay. So in person, or like I said, virtually, we are pointing and being physically expressive. This helps us acknowledge the responses. Paraphrasing is a huge part of visual thinking strategies. So as the student recommends and shares observations, you're paraphrasing what they have shared. This lets them know that you respect what they're sharing, that you understand what they're sharing. You may be asking for clarification on different points. One thing that we try to do is avoid saying I like, I love, and really acknowledging the contribution of the student and the way that it connects with their peers. This process requires that we remain open and accepting, and that we make considerations for students to share unique perspectives. There is no wrong answer in visual thinking strategies. What we try to do is get the students to continue to investigate through inquiry and then achieve answers that are supported by evidence, which generally brings them to what would be considered a right answer, and also encourage their peers to help answer questions. So when you look at what's going on in this picture, they may see something that you never have seen before, and that happens all the time in the museum. I'm always impressed by our students' observation skills and the way that they consider artwork and the way that their own personal experience and perspectives informs the way that they will interpret artwork. And then also let them talk, and don't worry about repetition. Okay, so as facilitators, as educators, it is our position to acknowledge that every comment is valuable. It encourages participation, ensures engagement, and engagement results in a variety of observations and interpretation. The diversity of insights will help students grow beyond the tendency to see things from a single perspective, and will lead to habits of valuing different viewpoints and speculative thinking. Visual thinking strategies helps nurture the group dynamic. This will oftentimes see that students who are reluctant to participate in group conversations where they feel like their answer could be wrong, or their answer could be different than their peers, those students tend to be reluctant to share. Using visual thinking strategies empowers the voice of the student to share their personal opinion. It's not about having the right answer, it's about sharing what their observations are. Students will work together, and oftentimes this will lead to them solving complex problems. This kind of visual thinking strategy will encourage dialogue and comfort within your students. And again, I think you'll find teachers are incredibly creative and adaptive and take different tools and can find new ways to apply them. So I encourage you to think about the ways that this kind of questioning and inquiry can encourage your students in other subject areas. Also, the debating and building on the idea of others helps students stretch their reasoning skills and also helps build empathy. And as individuals take on the discoveries of others, they're stimulated to find more layers of possibility. Okay, so we are going to practice this. I'm going to switch over to the view here so I can see more of you. So we're going to practice this here with everybody. I encourage you to participate. I ask you to participate. It will be a much more valuable experience for everybody. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to spend a period of time. So we'll do about 30 seconds. I'll actually set a timer. In the virtual world, time passes quickly. I'm sorry, before we get into this, does anybody have any questions? It's only a 50-minute session, so I'm going pretty quickly through all of this. Does anybody have questions?
Claire, you do have a question or two in the chat. Would you like me to read them for you?
Great, I'll grab it here.
Yep.
Okay, do I find that ELL students need additional support with open-ended questions? I think that's a great question, and I think it depends on the student. What you're encouraging is your students it actually helps your students develop new vocabulary. So this can be very beneficial with ELL students. They can share information and observations at the language level that they are at, perhaps even in their native language as well as English. And you can encourage them to develop new vocabulary by responding to what they're saying. And as I get your observations, I'll keep that in mind. And I'll point out times when I might be able to do that. Let's see, when booking a virtual field trip, does the teacher know what materials will be needed? Yes. When you book a field trip with our museum, we will have a supply list. All of the field trips at the Nevada Museum of Art, virtual or in person, come with a pre-lesson. So it is a lesson that is designed to be done in the classroom. It is optional for the in-person tour or virtual, but we encourage you to do it, and it will build a depth of knowledge for your students. For example, fourth grade is all about coding and reading codes in artwork. And so we have a pre-lesson that will talk about Morse code, and the kids will do these really cool bracelets. And then some of the vocabulary that you apply in that pre-lesson is reiterated in the field trip, either virtual or in person. We will also give you a post lesson. So if you'd like to continue the conversation, you have a written post lesson. The lessons that we provide are about an hour to an hour and a half total length. And then for the field trip itself, either virtual or in person, you'll know what those supplies are. And again, if we're doing a virtual field trip, it's very simple materials. If you come to the museum, we use novel materials. So at the museum, you're going to do things that you probably don't have access to in your classroom, like screen printing. You might do sculpture. We try to provide materials at the museum that are really difficult for teachers to do or too messy for teachers to approach. But when we do virtual field trips, we keep it very, very simple. So again, it's usually paper, usually white paper, scissors, and colorful drawing materials. Sometimes it's basic, sometimes it's just a pencil, maybe a glue stick, but I don't even think we do that. So we try to keep it very, very basic for you. Let's see. Was that just the two? Let's see, I got another message. Okay, great. And you're welcome to jump in. I mean, you can ask me a question at any point. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat. Mary, if you do see questions coming through the chat, you feel free to interrupt me because I'm starting to block my screen with a lot of images.
Sure thing.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and take about 30 seconds, and this will be just quiet, reflective time. Start now. Okay, so that was 30 seconds. And so first thing I'm going to just ask everybody is what's going on in this picture. And I'd like you to unmute. You can raise your hand if you'd like me to call on you, or you're welcome to just unmute. So just at the most basic level, what is going on in this picture? Megan.
I see a lot going on, but I see a stage with dancing. It's almost like they're telling a story. I almost see past and present with, I don't know, the roads. The stadium really stands out to me with the mountains, like the setting of where this picture is, this artwork is.
Yeah. So you're saying that you're seeing past and present. What do you see that makes you say that you're seeing the past and the present?
Well, the two gentlemen on horseback make me think, like, as people moved my brain, I'm so sorry, but moving, and then you have the cars with the roads, and then you also have the, I don't know if it's a trolley or something, that makes me think more present day than the horse riding in the past.
All right, so we have the horses here in the foreground. Then we're seeing different kinds of vehicles on the roads. And then we over here see this trolley. Are those the indicators? Am I pointing to the right place there?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you also commented on the stadium. So we have the stadium that's here in the background of the image. Talk to me about your observations and what do you think is going on there?
Well, I see two different sports. I think I see baseball with the blue uniform, and then football with the orange red uniform.
Thanks, Megan. You also mentioned the stage. Is this the stage that we're talking about here?
Yes, the people standing in front of the audience, watching the people on the stage performing.
Okay, so we have an audience that's in the front. We have what appears to be a stage.
But it's on the back of a truck now that I look a little closer.
Right, so we have a stage on the back of a truck. What does that tell you about what's happening? Is there anybody else that can talk to me a little bit about what's happening in this area of the picture? What are we seeing here?
I felt like this was a little bit of a love letter to a city, and the just showing the different boroughs maybe of a city and the different activities that can happen, but they're all still the same, still one city.
Okay, great. So Corinne's noticing that this could be a love letter to the city. She's recognizing different boroughs or perhaps different neighborhoods and different types of activities that are happening. So we have different segments. And if we look at this bottom left corner, we have a traditional neighborhood, a couple of houses. But if we come over here to the right-hand side, Corinne, what are we looking at? What's happening in this particular borough?
I see activism. Yeah, it was like busy. Are you talking about here under the freeway next to the trolley?
Yeah, so we have under the freeway overpass, there's a trolley that's coming through here. And then we have what is a group of people participating in some kind of collective activity. And what you're observing or suggesting is that perhaps they're part of an activist movement or some kind of a protest.
Yes, but what my classmate said, Megan, before, when she was like, I think this is a time lapse. I was like, oh yeah, that's true. It totally could be. And then that little gathering of people fits into her interpretation as well.
So you're also seeing perhaps we're looking at different periods of time and looking at one particular region or city, and then the different neighborhoods or boroughs located within that city.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. I had a raised hand from Maria.
I took a different approach. I see a city or a town celebrating their culture and showing their cultural importance throughout time.
And what makes you say that as we're looking at the city? What are some of the indicators that you feel are cultural references?
I feel like you've got something going on with what I think to be our skeletons. And then right above it, you're seeing people with what look like some kind of masks right above it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm seeing that. I'm seeing what could possibly be a mural in the background behind that. That's showing maybe a goddess, a dagger, those kinds of things. That's leading me to believe you seeing the heart, which shows love for their culture or their city.
So what I'm seeing you're recommending is that we're looking at some kind of cultural representation in this particular area, building on the celebration of a city or celebration of a culture. We have what could be a mural in the background. There's a dagger, there are symbols. So we have the symbol of this dagger, we have the symbol of the heart. For you, this heart is representing an expression of love. And then we also see some cultural imagery, which is the masks on top of these bodies. And then also we are looking at these different skeletons. What else are we looking at in this image? What more can you find?
I think these people look happy. It looks like there are different groups singing.
Okay, so we have some singing. I see definitely some singing in the foreground here.
I see them here. And people are listening to the singing.
People are listening to the singing, participating. And that's you, Joyce, is that you that's speaking?
Yes, yes. To me, it looks like a very happy picture of different kinds of celebrating all through the picture.
Right, so you're observing something that feels very celebratory, almost like a festival of sorts. You're seeing people are singing. We're also observing there's dance or possibly performance. There's this couple in the middle of the picture that's coming together. Does anybody else feel like maybe there's something different that's happening? Or maybe a different portion that you'd like to discuss?
I was just, oh, sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead. I'll wait.
I was just thinking, thank you. I was just thinking it kind of just has, you know, happy things and sad things, and it's really representing the different parts of a city or a culture where we do have those celebratory things, but then we also have the negative things that sometimes we have to, you know, deal with, I guess.
Randy, can you talk a little bit more about what you're seeing as something more challenging or maybe more negative in this image?
I mean, I guess it just depends on which side you're on, but the activism could definitely be more negative compared to like the dancing. And then I'm not really sure what's going on over by the skeletons. There's like, I don't know. I can't really tell what that gray little stuff happening there is. But, you know, you've got like the factories and, you know, the cars and people going different directions. And so they're just, it's not all like happy.
Great. So we see cars and vehicles that are traveling in different directions. We have these highways that are breaking up the space. We have groups that are gathered in the front, as Brandy noticed, in protest, or what we think looks like protest. We have an area over here on the right that's a little difficult to decipher, especially virtually, but we do have these skeleton figures that look like they're armed. Brandy, in person, I realize this is a difficult thing to see virtually and on whatever your device is. In person, I would ask more of you to tell me what this is versus what I'm going to do right now. But we do see the skeleton figures. They look militarized, or perhaps as a police force. They have what looks like combat boots, possibly weapons or guns that are being pointed. And then they have some kind of a military or police type hat, as well as a stack of daggers. And right here, I can't quite see what those are sticking into. So we're definitely seeing points of conflict. As we're looking, as Maria and also as Joyce commented, at something that feels very celebratory, or as Corrine called it, a love letter to the city. There are these celebratory moments, but also we're seeing these points of conflict. And then I just wanted to look at some of the iconography that we're seeing. So we have, again, this dagger symbol, we have a heart. Over here, we have a dove. Can we talk a little bit about this dove that we have in the very far background of the image? And how does it relate with the rest of the picture and the way that it's positioned in this artwork?
It's almost in the center in the background. Maybe this is to symbolize peace, that is the desire for peace, because all the way around that, there's a light blue. So a nice fair sky.
Mm-hmm. So the dove could be a symbol of peace. It's positioned centrally in this image, and it's positioned against a blue sky, maybe a point of optimism.
Well, and above a church. So maybe those two go together.
Right. Sitting above the church, we also have some cultural iconography here. The Virgin Mary, which you see a lot in our Hispanic cultures. Chicano movement is represented here. Anybody else want to share some observations? And actually, let me take a peek into our chat because we're seeing some participation here as well. So we have a community or groups of people doing activities together from Brandy Martin. Looks like it could be a celebration. Megan shared that she didn't even see the skeletons behind the pictures. And so that's something I wanted to note. This is a very, very busy image that we're looking at. There is a lot to see. Let's see, and I think it's Tammy is recognizing, you know, what's with the teddy bear? Where, and I remember seeing that, I gotta move things around. So we have this teddy bear over here, right? Teddy bear sitting in the left, almost in the background. Definitely oversized. What is that? I don't know. I don't know what that teddy bear is. The bear and the dog on the left are interesting, Kim is noting. So Kim also noticed the bear. Kim, what are your observations on those two real subjects that are part of this?
I'm just wondering if I can't really quite see it, but the moon, it looks like above it, does it have like a sun in, I can't tell, but I'm wondering if that has something to do with those images somehow in their culture, maybe?
Yeah, so we have a moon back here in the hills. It looks like there's some sort of a mountain or hillscape over here. We're seeing a transition in the sky. So if you look in the background of this, we're going from nighttime to probably very light, bright daytime. And then we transition into this very warm setting. So this could be, as somebody indicated, a mural. Perhaps it's going into the other world. And I think that's really open to interpretation. So I want to just share a couple things that happened in the conversation, and the reason that I think it's important. I want to see more of you. Why it's important to encourage this dialogue. So I mentioned that when we're looking at the strands within the visual art standards, and we think about what we're looking at here is really connect and respond. If you start with connect and respond, you are encouraging your students critically. You're empowering their voices. You're getting them to share their opinions and really think about what an artwork is, and how an artwork can communicate to different people in different ways. And again, if you start with this, I think that your students will feel more empowered when they create their own artworks to share. Let's see, David is sharing another observation here. So the freeway to the left could be representing going into the dark past, and the freeway on the right might be going into some kind of glowing ethereal future, or, oh gosh, I just lost the comment, I'm sorry. Glowing ethereal future. Or it might be more menacing with the symbolism. The goddess might be a little angry. The stadium looks like a Roman Colosseum. And I see this painting as a cultural identity of the city, and that came in from Mary Grace. Thank you both for your comments here. So the longer you sit with an artwork, the more you see. We had the question about the ELL students. And some of the things that you'll see that I did was really think about paraphrasing what you were sharing. So if we're talking about celebration, then I'm going to reiterate some of that vocabulary. So I'm going to confirm the words that you've used, but I will also introduce new vocabulary. With an artwork, I might think about foreground, middle ground, background, also indicating what exactly it is that we're looking at. And then we want to respect students' contributions. So you may have students who can share their own cultural points of view when looking at this artwork, and you're allowing them to speak in ways that share their cultural perspective without asking them what their cultural perspective is. You're encouraging them to share through a lens that is defined by the person that they are, by their lived experience, and by their own cultural upbringing, without asking them to share something that's personal. You're getting them to do it in a different way. And through this, you start to build empathy. You also build confidence. You build an atmosphere where your students feel excited and empowered to share their opinions. And you can see that in sharing observations, we don't have an exact outcome we're looking for. We're really just asking for people to share what they see, and through that share their personal narratives. Okay. Let's see what time it is. Okay, we're getting close here. So here's another image. And let's see, we got people in the waiting room. Totally different image. And again, so I tried to pick two pieces that were quite different. This kind of thinking, visual thinking strategies, works really well with pictures that are more narrative. It can be challenging with pictures that are very abstract, like a color block. But pictures that have some narrative qualities to them really will encourage that dialogue. So again, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to move through this one a little quicker. But again, I'll give you 30 seconds to start. Okay, that was 30 seconds. So what's going on in this picture? Okay,
It-
Joyce is,
It feels very peaceful.
feels peaceful. What makes you say that?
The reflection on the water, stillness, the blues, the muted colors.
Is that Tammy?
Yes.
Thanks, Tammy. So stillness, muted colors. Did you say fall?
No.
Did you say it felt like Nevada?
No.
Okay, I think I'm also reading the chat. So I'm
No,
It
it looks like I've lived in multiple states, and it looks like a lot of different areas that I've lived in.
Thank you so much, Terry. I was waiting for a response and I had just looked at Joyce's response, which was that it looked like fall in Nevada. So that was sitting in my head right as I started to listen to you. So thank you for your observation. So you're recognizing that we're seeing stillness. You're noticing that we have muted colors. Joyce dropped in the comment that it looks like it could be fall in Nevada. Steph is noting that the water's calm. So Steph is also observing that there is a stillness, and that's what Terry had seen. David is noticing the cabin. So if you look right in the middle ground of this image, we have a very small structure. So David is noticing and thinking this could be a small cabin and a good place to experience autumn. Nellie is also commenting that it feels calm, it feels relaxing. Mary Grace is commenting about serenity. The soft colors make it seem like relaxing at a cabin or like you might be on vacation. And that came in from Linda. So we're sharing a lot of the same kinds of observations here. Does this feel like a familiar landscape to anybody?
It does to me, because the tall yellow trees remind me of the cottonwood trees in the fall as they turn. And the mountains in the background, the colors that they are, looks like Nevada.
So Joyce, it's feeling familiar. The colors, the trees, the cottonwood trees feel like something you've experienced here before. Who else is feeling like this? This looks familiar. Kim, yeah. Kim, what are you seeing here?
It reminds me of a combination because I grew up in Washington State, so some of the little lakes around there. Yeah, it just seems very calm and peaceful.
So in Washington, you have a familiar landscape, something that feels like a balance between the mountain range, water bodies, tall trees. Great. And I imagine, let's see, so Tammy, I think it is again, discussing lots of cottonwoods in Oregon too. And Tammy, is that something, are you from Oregon?
No, it's just another state that I've lived in.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom had a cottonwood in her front yard, and the branches break off. And so, yeah, the yellow is definitely something that jumps out at me because I see them here and I see them, you see them in Oregon also, and so much water, you know.
Right. Let's see, Nellie, do you want to talk a little bit about your observations?
Yes, it reminds me of my country. So because when you go in one place and you can see that overlooking mountain, and if you want to refresh yourself, you can go and jump into the water and have yourself refreshed. That's it.
Nellie, where is your country?
Philippines.
The Philippines.
Yes.
So from a different part of the world, there are pieces of this that feel very familiar. Again, noting the combination of the mountains, these tall trees, a refresh or respite that would come from the water, experiencing that cleansing. A lot of people are expressing that it feels very relaxing, calm, serene. Is this a place you would like to be? Yeah. Terry would like to be there. I'm not seeing everybody. Yeah, French Valley surrounded by mountains. Excellent. So again, this is something that you could use as a way of encouraging dialogue with your students. This is one way that your students could express personal experience. So we heard from Nellie that she's from the Philippines. We don't know that. We didn't get that in our initial introductions here. But now we know a little bit more about where Nellie has come from. We had Joyce, who spent some time in Oregon. I think Kim was in Washington. And so now you can start to, and I think that, sorry, if I mixed you up, but you can start to build some personal stories. You can start to think about the ways that somebody's own experience impresses upon them and can lead them to having either a familiarity or a lack of familiarity with a particular artwork. And both of those are pathways that can be explored through visual thinking strategies. So once again, you start to build empathy, understanding. You may learn something about your students that you didn't know about them before, because they feel empowered to articulate their experience through the lens of looking at art. I think this is just as important as the creation of art, is learning to express and create connection through the conversations that come out of not only the creation and explaining of the artwork you produce, but in the interpretation of artwork that you see. Go ahead on to the next slide here. Okay, we have a couple more from our collection, and actually, this is a piece by Jack Malott. He is Western Shoshone. We did a full retrospective of his work. This is Cave Rock, which is out at Lake Tahoe. And there's a really interesting story that goes behind it. I believe this is part of our 4th grade lesson that is part of our virtual program. Sometimes on view at the museum, sometimes not. This is another artwork by an artist, Cara Romero. It's called TB Indians. So again, if you were to spend time with this piece, you can imagine the dialogue and stories that might come out of that. And then a reminder, I'm kind of rushing here because we got another workshop. Another reminder of the different strands. So create, present, respond, and connect. And today we spent time once again with the responding, connecting. And then you can see, I hope, how these can inform creating and presenting. So when your students have to talk about their artwork, if you have had the experience and introduction to respond and connect, it will give your students more confidence when they are thinking about the creation and absolutely the presentation of their own work. You've given them skills and vocabulary that help them express what they're trying to articulate in the creation of artwork. Okay, so just going to go ahead and end here on resources. So once again, you can go to nevadaart.org or just search Nevada Museum of Art, and you can book or request a field trip. Virtual field trips are free. In-person field trips, I believe, are $5, and we do pay for busing. We also provide free memberships to educators, and I'll see if we might be able to send a link out. I'll talk to Mary about that later. For people who participated in this, you can search it on our website, so nevadaart.org. We do free memberships for teachers at the museum. I also want to say that I do educator evenings. If you would like to drop your email into the chat, I will add you to our email list and I can send you follow-up there. If you give me your email, I'll send you information about free membership, virtual field trips, and professional development for teachers. I do a monthly professional development session where we look at topics like this, connecting artwork. We often will bring in guest artists, so they'll do artist presentations. And then we work with national organizations to provide professional development in the arts. So we work with Harvard's Project Zero, Visual Thinking Strategies, Stanford, and other schools that do these presentations. It's on the first Wednesday of every month, except for January and July. And then we do a back to school night in August. So we have a lot of resources. Thank you for your emails. I will send you a clearer follow-up via email here.
Claire, I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
So being a kindergarten teacher, do you have a resource of where to get paintings and artwork, like have discussions? Because I think this would be really beneficial.
Visual Thinking Strategies is fantastic, and they have a lot of resources available, artwork, but also regular discussions if you want to practice that. There is artwork you can pull from our collection, but again,